Hello friends, today we will discuss about theories of social stratification, under which we will study structural functionalist theory. So let us start now. It is based on the idea that society has certain needs or functional prerequisites that must be met for the society to survive. It is possible through social stratification. Second point, another concern of this theory is that certain amount of order and stability is needed for society to survive. Through social stratification, that this is achieved. That means social stratification is required for meeting the functional prerequisites and maintaining stability and order in the society. So now let us see the major structure functionalist theorist. So the first major theorist is Talcott Parsons. What he argues is, let us see. According to him, for society to exist, value consensus is needed. So Parsons is talking about value consensus. So we have to remember these terms. For that, members should be evaluated in terms of these values. Those that perform better in terms of society's values will be ranked higher than others. Different societies have different value system, and the ways of attaining a higher position vary from society to society. For example, bravery is accorded high value among Sioux Indians. In American society, successful businessmen are more valued because of the American society values individual achievement and efficiency and puts primary emphasis on productive activity within the economy. Hence, as per Parsons, stratification is universal. Another reason cited by Parsons is that in all societies, cooperation and planning is needed among members, and those who take responsibility for coordinating the actions of many others must have higher status than those who act out the roles. Parsons considers stratification as both inevitable because it derives from shared values which are necessary part of all social system, and functional, that means serves to integrate various groups in society. So according to Parsons, social stratification is not only inevitable but also functional. Parsons argues that power and prestige differentials are essential for the coordination and integration of specialized division of labor. Inequalities of power and prestige benefits all members of the society since they serve to further collective goals which are based on shared values. Parsons has been strongly criticized on all these points. Many sociologists have seen stratification as a divisive rather than an integrating force. They have regarded it as an arrangement whereby the some gain at the expense of others, and they have questioned the view that stratification system derive ultimately from shared values. Now let us see another structural functionalist theorist are Kingsley Davis and Wilbert A. Murray. They both are American sociologists, and Talcott Parsons is also American sociologist. They propose that the most famous functionalist theory of stratification in their article, Some Principle of Stratification in 1945. Davis and Murray argued that stratification exists in every known society and all social systems share certain functional prerequisites which must be met if the system is to survive and operate efficiently. One such functional prerequisite is effective role allocation and performance. This means that all roles must be filled. They must be filled by those best able to perform them. The necessary training for them must be undertaken, and the role must be performed conscientiously. Davis and Murray argued that all societies need some mechanism for ensuring effective role allocation and performance. So they are emphasizing on effective role allocation and performance. And this mechanism is social stratification. So according to them, social stratification is a mechanism for ensuring effective role allocation and performance, which they saw as a system that attaches unequal rewards and privileges to the different positions in society. A major function of stratification is to match the most able people with the functionally most important positions. It does this by attaching high rewards to those positions. The desire for such rewards motivates people to compete for them, and the most talented will win through. Such positions usually require long period of training that involves certain sacrifices. So according to Davis and Murray, training is some sort of sacrifice, such as loss of income. The promise of high rewards is necessary to provide an incentive to encourage people to undergo this training and to compensate them for sacrifices involved. They argued that the importance of a position can be measured in two ways. First one is functional uniqueness. That means no other position that can perform the same function satisfactorily. For example, doctors are functionally more important than nurses, since their positions carry with many of the skills necessary to perform nurses' role, but not vice versa. That means doctors have a skill to perform the role of nurses, but they have much more skills than a nurse has. So doctor's position is functionally unique as compared to nurse. Second point is functional dependence, degree to which other positions are dependent on it. For example, position of manager is more important than routine office staff, since latter are dependent on direction and organizations from the management. To summarize, Davis and Murray regarded social stratification as a functional necessity for all society. So they are talking about stratification as functional necessity for all societies because it contributes to the maintenance and well-being of social system. Now let us do the critical evaluation. So Melvin M. Tumin, the critic of Davis Murray, you have to study about Tumin. Questions are asked on this. Now what he argues that Tumin criticized Davis and Murray for ignoring the influence of power on unequal distribution of rewards. For example, industrialists making cosmetics earn much more than farmer. Each producing cosmetic is more important than producing food. Davis and Murray assumed that only a limited number of individuals have the talent to acquire the skills necessary for the functionally most important position. Tumin regarded it as a very questionable assumption, as no effective method of measuring talent and ability has been devised yet. Tumin argues that there is no universal criteria to decide which role is more worthy. There are some positions which are very important but very poorly paid. For example, minus role are very much important and critical than normal engineers, but they are poorly paid. Considering training as a sacrifice, thus ignoring that the rewards of being a trainee, for example, leisure, freedom, are very important opportunity for self-development. So Tumin is criticizing Davis and Murray for considering training as a sort of sacrifice. But actually training is not a sacrifice. It has own significance like its leisure, freedom, and very important opportunity for self-development. Tumin also argued that Davis and Murray failed to consider the possibility that those who occupy highly rewarded positions erect barriers for others. For example, American Medical Association deliberately restrict entry into the professions to ensure the shortage of doctors in order to maintain their high wages. Social stratification, it's by very nature, is unjust, as those born into the lower strata can never have the same opportunity for realizing their talent as compared to those born into the higher strata. Tumin also questioned the view that social stratification functions to integrate the social system. He argued that differential rewards can encourage hostility, suspicion, distrust among the various segments of the society. Now let us see about what Peter Saunders is saying. Peter Saunders doesn't agree with Tumin. He argued that in absence of economic rewards, the only other way of making people work will be through threat or use of physical force. Hence he says in socialist countries, in the absence of economic reward, such method will be needed. Now let us see what Mitchell Young has said. In The Rise of Meritocracy, he has highlighted the dysfunctions of the meritocratic role allocation system. Firstly, members of the lower strata may become totally demoralized, since those at the bottom are clearly will be tagged as inferior, means they will declare as inferior. The upper stratum, free from self-doubt and whose privileges are based on merit, may rule the society with arrogance, and they will become insensitive to the bottom strata. They may despise the lower strata, whose members may find such behavior offensive. This may result in conflict between the ruling minority and the rest of the society. Therefore, stratification system based on effective role allocation may be dysfunctional. So it's all about theory, structural functionalist theory. In next lecture, we will study about Marxist theory of social stratification. Okay, thank you very much.